Hello friends, my name is AJ. This video today is going to be actually a little bit different from videos that I usually make, and today I am going to be showing you the Pythonista IDE for the iPad. What Pythonista allows you to do is it basically is a fully functioning Python IDE for the iPad, and you're actually able to code in Python as well as run your code in this IDE. Now, throughout the video, I do want to just mention that I am in no way affiliated with this particular app or the company that makes this app, so all opinions are my own. And today we're going to be going over kind of the entire app, showing you what you can do with it, and then seeing if it is worth it. So the app itself is going to be $10 on the iOS App Store, and it works for both iOS as well, or both iPhone as well as for iPad. So without further ado, let's get started. And I am on my iPad over here. Also, first thing, I apologize for the extremely dark lighting. The weather has not been very good, so if the lighting is slightly darker than usual, I apologize. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is, this is the Pythonista app. It is on my home screen right over here. And Pythonista, again, as I said, is $10 unless you are able to get a sale, which actually does sometimes happen. I have seen this on sale before. But you can download it from the iOS App Store by simply searching Pythonista, and it will be Pythonista 3. So we're just going to open the app right here. And the first thing that you may see is you're kind of going to see two things on either side. First, you may see the welcome.md file, or the markdown file. And this will simply allow you to kind of see a welcome page for the actual app. In addition, on the right side, or on the left side, you'll also kind of see this sidebar. And this sidebar is pretty much going to have a lot of the files, a lot of your files that you'll actually be able to run and to load and open. So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually going to be kind of adding a file. So your files, you can see over here, is going to be, if you click on, there's this little script library section which has this iPad. If you click on that over here, you can actually see that these are all of my pages, and you can even see that there is an examples folder, which I will be going into in a second. But this is kind of all of your files that are stored locally on your iPad. So, for example, if I want to create a new Python file, all you have to do is on the bottom left of the screen, you will have this plus button, and you can click it. And you can see that there are multiple things over here. You can see that you have an empty script, a new folder, so you can actually have file management also, which is really cool. You can click on import, which you can import from maybe your Files app on your iPad or even your photo library, which is quite interesting. You can have script with UI and UI files, so yes, you can even do user interface coding on Pythonista. You have extension scripts that you can also include, as well as a plain text, which is a .txt file, markdown, which is .md, like the welcome page is behind this, as well as an HTML file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on empty script, and you can see that there are all these different places that you can actually save this. I'm going to just save this on my iPad, and I'm just going to call this example.py, or example.py, and I'll click on create. And you can see right over here, you now have this blank file. And going into the file, this is one of the things that I actually really like about Pythonista. Now, one thing is that if you notice, there is a little bit of discoloration, probably due to dark mode, because dark mode is, dark mode came out recently for, well, not necessarily recently, but relatively recently in iOS 13, so perhaps the developer has not actually updated that part. But you can see here that they add this top row to your keyboard, which is very, very useful. You can see that they include a tab button, which is something that is also very important in Python, because whenever you're doing if statements, like I can do if example, right, you're always going to have to indent. Your line always has to be indented with whatever code you write. Indenting is very important in Python, even more than pretty much any other language. You have an undo button, and if you hold down on the buttons that have this little mark on the top right corner, you actually get extra options. So for example, if I type something like this, and then I delete it, I can undo my thing over here, but I can also hold down and slide over for the redo button as well, which is very cool. In addition, you have a paste button. So let's say I say hello and I copy this. I can also paste it multiple times with the next button. Now, the other thing about this keyboard is you can go over to the underscore and you can see that you can hold down to quickly access your comment. Right over here, this is a comment because in Python, if you are quite familiar with the language, you know that in order to create a comment, you use the hashtag or the pound symbol to add or the number symbol to add a comment. Now, in addition, over here, there is also the kind of the open or the less than symbol, if you want to call it that, or sometimes people call it like the little arrow, whatever. But if you hold down here, you actually have both. So you can do both the left and the right. So they've hidden it here just in case you need to quickly access it. And of course, they have open and close. And that's another thing that I like about this. Watch what I do. If I just click one time on the open curly brace, you can see that it creates my closing brace as well. So it is a little bit smart in that way, just like a normal IDE that you'd have on your computer, such as Visual Studio Code, or if you are using something like PyCharm. So here, you can easily create this little, you can do this with both curly braces, you can do it with both straight brackets, and you can do this with parentheses, where it's going to pretty much kind of autocomplete the other side. And that's simply going to be very helpful whenever you are coding because it is just easy and then you don't have to worry about adding that closing delimiter as such. Now, another thing is that you have quotes, and quotes, if you know, are the ways to create strings. In Python, you can create strings using both single and double quotes. So if I hold down on my quote button, you can see that I have both a single, a double, but they even have a triple quotes icon. And why triple quotes is actually so useful is because this is how you can create multi-line strings, multi-line comments. But by allowing this over here, what you do is you prevent that whenever you kind of try to, let's say I click 1, 2, 3. You see here that it does that. It kind of, and that's smart in this way. Sometimes if you do quote, double quote 3 times, it can mess it up. But in this case, it's very easy. You can simply go directly to it and not have to worry about it. It just removes a little bit of the monotonousness when you're typing. And over here you have the plus, which of course you can actually change over to your modulus symbol as well, which is pretty useful. You have subtract, you have divide. And one thing with this divide is when you hold down, look at that, you even have options to have a new line and a tab escape character, which is also very helpful, as well as a blank escape character if you need to add something else. So if I'm creating a string and I want to have it multi-line, I can easily do that using the /n escape character for Python. Another thing which you can see that has popped up whenever I start typing in something is you have this kind of autocomplete section. And this is really cool because if I want to type in something, like if I'm typing in CLA, like I want to create a class, you can see that it actually gives me over here a button in which I can click for kind of an autocomplete, which is really cool that they have autocomplete in this app. Another thing is next to the class icon, you can see that there is this the indent icon over here. Next to the class autocomplete section, there's also the tab icon. And I just have to click the tab button and it's going to autocomplete it. So this is very helpful in case you're using an iPad, for example, with a keyboard. You see that it's autocomplete. You can easily use the tab button and it will all work perfectly. All right, so that has been, and then the equals, you can easily switch between equals, not equals, and then this you can quickly switch between colon and semicolon. And in general with that, you also just have your standard keyboard, which, in this case with iOS 13, because I can now just quickly swipe for numbers, so I can just swipe down to do 12 over here, and I can easily do 12 modulus 5 by doing swipe for 12, and then hold down on the plus button, right, modulus 5, just like that. So it's very easy to code. It's actually quite intuitive, whether you are using both the on-screen keyboard or if you're using something like an external keyboard. So that is one thing that I do like about this program, which allows us to very easily, this keyboard is very, very good. A lot of apps that, allow you to code in Python or even in other languages, the keyboard is just not that good. It does not allow you to do certain things. Now, this app, though, does something really good with the keyboard. And another example of an app, I think, that does something really good with the keyboard as well is going to be Swift Playgrounds for iPad. They also have a custom keyboard where you can actually swipe and do things that are also very cool, and that allow you to very easily access some of the most important things, such as curly braces, that you'll use very often. Alright, so now that I've talked about kind of the keyboard and now the text editing, I can now talk about actually running your Python, because this is something that, of course, this is an IDE, so it allows you to actually run your Python code. So, for example, if I just want to do here, I can type in print, and you can see that it auto-completes. I can simply click on tab, and it immediately gives me my print function. And then I can click here to do my quotes. I can say hello world, just like that. And then I can also, for example, I'm going to print here. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to print, I'm going to hold down here and get to my escape character. Or in this case, that's a tab, I'll make it N. And I can say, this is my review of Pythonista for iPad. Just like that. So now, how do you run the code? Well, there is actually, very easily, you can see on the top right of your screen, there is a little play button, which I can click to easily run my code. And I'm just going to clear this and run it again so you can see. And you can see that it prints directly to console. Now, you can even type into console. So if you're doing input functions, you can easily input here, like, this is input. You can type in certain things and it will also work. For example, okay, let me actually not do I can do print hi, and you can see that it's going to take that in as an input and print out hi. So this is very, very useful. And you saw how I just clicked that button over here, which is, if you look on your screen on the top left, the second button over, that actually allows me to have a split screen so I can code and run and have both on my screen at the same time. And that is very, very helpful. You can close out of that by clicking the button again. Now, one other thing is that you can easily swipe also. It's quite intuitive. Okay, I don't know why page is open there, but it's quite intuitive to switch between pages. I can simply swipe over. You can see that this opens up my sidebar. If I swipe over on my Python file, if I swipe from the right to the left, okay, not there, that's better. So one thing with iPad with multitasking gestures, if you swipe from the immediate edge, you open up your apps. But if you open up from if you swipe a little bit more inside, it'll work. And you can see that I can quickly access my console directly from here. Now, another thing with Python, with Pythonista, which is very good, is that it does have certain, and I'm going to be getting to this in a second, but it has certain packages, such as matplotlib and scipy, which are very, very useful, and many people have used them. And so I'm going to be going into now the example folder, if you remember. So I'm going to swipe over, and you can see over here that this is my file explorer. I'm going to open up example, and you could see that there are all of these different example folders. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the plotting folder over here, and I'm going to select histogram demo over here. This is a histogram demo. And I'm going to click the run button to run my code, and you can see just like that, this can print out graphs. This is so useful. You can see here that it's basically saying that this is a histogram of IQ, that the mean is going to be 100, and I believe the standard deviation is going to be 15. I believe that is what it's saying. You have the productivity over there, and then you have the actual number. So this is really, really cool. And you can see over here that what you do is you're importing NumPy and matplotlib, and you are simply creating a plot where you have your title. And you can see here that you can even have these escape characters. Like you see here how how the sample, I didn't make this, that you have this $/ and then sigma equals, and then that translates directly to that symbol being printed in the title. So you can even include those mathematical things. Very, very useful. Now, one of the main benefits of this is, let's say you're working and doing something. Either you're working on a school project in college or in high school, even if your high school does this type of stuff. You can even, like, let's say you're working with some people, or you're trying to show maybe what you've done, then an iPad is actually such a good way if you can manage to obviously do it, because there are some limitations, which I will be talking about in a second. But this is so interactive, because you can simply, and you can see over here all my different things on the iPad. Just, it's much easier to easily hand somebody an iPad screen and say, oh, look at this, rather than an entire computer, which, that has to be probably set up somewhere. And simply for on the go, checking different things, this is going to be very, very helpful. So in addition to graphing, you can even do 3D plots. So I clicked on a 3D plot demo. Look at that, you have a 3D plot. I don't know much about 3D plots, but this is something that is also going to be quite useful for certain people. Down here, you can see that you can even go as far into pie charts. Pretty much anything, look at that right over here. Anything that you can pretty much do involving matplotlib, you can use directly on your iPad. That's going to be really, really, really cool. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get into kind of the limitations is going to be a little bit of this stuff. So you can see that I'm going to go to maybe games. You can see that there's this brick breaker game. So if I run this, you can see you can actually play a game. Now, I don't know. Okay, this is going to be kind of similar to... There's a game, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. On Google, there's a game where if you search into the Google engine, you can quickly kind of access those things. You can see that I have 2 hearts. But imagine that this game was coded in Pythonista for the iPad. And this is, of course, using UI elements, which are going to be unique to either this and also using extra packages. All right, so that is enough gameplay for now. I'm just going to stop this. And see, you can even click on continue. You can click on new game. It is really, really cool. And all that is done in all of the code on the screen, which in the end runs down to 429 lines of code. But you can also see some of the other things that they imported, right? Some of the packages which are built in. You have sound, you have math, random, game menu, game levels, color system, scene, a lot of things that are going to be very, very useful. All right, so that is enough about kind of showing what you can do in terms of the different things that are installed. The last thing I do want to show you is that you can even, over here in Cloud, you saw how there's a button in Cloud, you can even save your Python files in the cloud and access them on your iPad. So for example, if you're working on a project on your computer in a Python script, and you have to go away from your computer and you can't take it, but you can take your phone or your iPad, because you can even do this on your phone, even though it's probably not, that big and recommended, because of, everyone knows kind of the iPhone keyboard, you can make a lot of typos, and it's a small screen, so it'll be very hard to view your code. But you can very easily just drag that Python thing into your iCloud. In iCloud, there'll be a new Pythonista folder, which is automatically built in. All you have to do is simply drag your file into that Pythonista folder in your iCloud drive, and it will immediately show up in your app, which you can edit. And then when you're done editing it, it'll update on your computer through cloud. That is something that is going to be very, very useful. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is going to be your modules. So you can see these are all of the modules that are installed onto the actual iPad here. You can see there's import lib, there's JSON, there's SQLite even, so you can even do database operations perhaps through Pythonista. And there's just a lot of things that you can do, and there are also things called site packages and then standard library you can see. So there are many things that you can do with Pythonista. And especially for $10, that is going to be very, very, very good. But there is one problem with this app, which I think prevents it from being absolutely amazing. And the one problem with it is simply going to be the fact that you can't actually install your own packages. So, well, you technically can try to install your own packages, but there's a workaround. It's not natively built into Pythonista as of recording this video. And that is kind of where the problem lies, right? Because you can, like, for example, one of the most notable thing that's missing from Pythonista is pandas, right? If I go over here and I try to go to my example and I want to import pandas right over here, and standard import pandas is pyd. If I run that, you can see there's an error, no module named pandas. So in terms of the actual modules, that is going to be a problem. You can't import things. And you can't use, for example, pip, to install the Python. You usually type in pip install and then you can install your different packages. You can't do packages through Pythonista. And that is where this kind of falls short. There are technically workarounds. In the future video I may make that, which do allow it to work, but it's simply not intuitive. It's not easy to do without a lot of different external things that you need to do. So that is where this kind of falls short, because there are a lot of people, especially majority of the people who are using Python religiously, right? If they're doing it for example, data analysis and those type of things, yes, matplotlib is going to be very helpful, but oftentimes you're going to be analyzing data sets of some sort, which is going to be, what you need pandas for. Let's say that you're trying to, scrape the internet. You can use Beautiful Soup. Now, there may be hardware limitations with Beautiful Soup, however, so that's perfectly understandable that some things can't be ported over, but things such as pandas that I think that could be reasonably ported over are not part of this yet. And that is where that's where the problem lies. Now, if anybody knows, for example, that they've got Python pandas to work natively on Pythonista, definitely let me know in the comment section, but I haven't been able to do that. So that is kind of where the app lies. Right? For $10, it's actually a very, very good IDE. And you can even, in addition, one thing I forgot to show is you can have customization, right? You can change the font of your thing. You can change your coding style. You can even change your, from Python 3 to Python 2. You can change and make your custom theme. So you can see here I have this Aegis custom theme that I made. You can even change over here, if you go to theme, you can even change the app icon to whatever color you want. So there are many things that you can do, and you can even search and, find and replace, and there's so many different things that you can do that makes this absolutely one of the best, in my opinion, IDEs of Python on the iPad. But again, the main problem is the fact that you're not going to be able to import different packages. And, the thing is that majority of people who are trying to use Python on a daily basis. You can have the best environment in the world, but if you're not able to use some of your packages, then it pretty much becomes absolutely useless, because that is kind of the main portion of what you're trying to do. So if those things, and I will be showing you in a video that there's technically a way that there is a way that you can get some packages. Some people have had success this way, but it's not native, and it requires a lot of setting up. Right? You can't just go and hop into a terminal and type in pip install and just make everything work. It doesn't work like that. So overall, how would I rate, you may be wondering, how would I rate Pythonista? I think that if you're trying to do, for example, some basic Python things, or for example, if you are in, if you're learning Python. Let's say you are in, in high school or in college, or you're doing something, you're taking some sort of course, and you want to use your iPad, then actually Pythonista is absolutely great for you, because it allows you to do pretty much everything and connect to your computer using the cloud, and you can very easily swap files, and it just becomes very, very useful, especially for people with a keyboard with their iPad. That becomes very, very useful. And again, though, the one downside is that you don't have the ability to actually import many packages, except for the ones that they have built in. And that in itself will probably, that will make Pythonista not worth it for some people. And then for other people, again, it just doesn't matter. Like if you don't use, for example, things like pandas or external packages on a daily basis, and you're just kind of learning about Python, you're maybe going through a course, you're doing some introductory things, and this is absolutely great for you. Now, in the future, there's actually another app which allows you to run Jupyter Notebooks on iPad, which is $15. I'm actually going to be going over that app also pretty soon, once I kind of get more familiar with it. I've used Pythonista in the past. I know my files are empty, but my cloud one has some files. It's actually a very, very good app, and I recommend it for those people, again, who don't necessarily need those external packages. All right, everyone, if you have any questions about this app or about anything in general, definitely leave them in the comment section below. If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe for more content, and as always, thanks for watching.